Hi, and welcome back to Inspired Alchemy with Lizzie. This is episode 23. And in this episode, when I say this word, don't run. Failure. It is the relationship with failure. Failure doesn't have to be a dirty word. And I'm going to go into why and my relationship with failure and success. But what inspired this today was actually a friend who posted something about failure. It looks like a timeline, and it's just a line that says set a goal and then it says achieve. Most people think that you set a goal and it's just like this straight line to success, but it's not. You set a goal, you start, and it feels like it's going up. It goes down because you're failing. It goes up a little bit and you start doubting yourself. Then it goes down and you start practicing. Then it goes up really far because you're learning new skills, you're learning new perspectives, you're learning new ways of being, whatever it is you're learning. Then you feel like, oh geez, and for whatever reason you hit a hard moment, a challenging moment, and you go down and you're struggling. Then you go up a little bit more and you start feeling lost. Then you start getting it even though you feel like you've reached the bottom. And then when you're least expecting it, you achieve it. With that, it was a post from somebody else, but my friend reposted it, and so it inspired me today. I also saw another very powerful graphic that went along with it. And it's these two little boxes, and it has red X marks in them. And it says failing twice. And then it says, doesn't mean you are a failure. And then it shows a whole table of green check marks. And every once in a while, there's a red mark, and then two red marks in a row. And then there's so many more green check marks. And that's kind of what life is. And I've said this before in other episodes. None of us really know what we're doing. People want to pretend they think they know everything, but none of us know. And sometimes the people who think they know everything are hit really hard one day with the realization that there was something that was missing. And who knows, maybe there are people out there. I haven't met any yet. There are people that think they know everything. And that's okay. But my relationship with failure has actually never really been a bad thing. I did really well in school, but I was never a math person. I was in honors classes and all of these other things. So all of my classes except for math were honors. And I struggled probably starting in high school with math, somewhat in late in middle school and then going into high school. So I struggled with numbers, I struggled with math, I struggled with like anything that had to do with that. And then I moved around a lot. So there was they wanted to put me in algebra 1A, and the school didn't have it. So then they put me in algebra 1B, and then I had to move again before I finished that class, and the next school didn't offer that, and they're like, "Oh, the best we can do is stick you in geometry." And in my defense, everybody in my geometry class failed except for one person, one girl. One girl didn't fail. And that's because she would bring things for the teacher. And that teacher was fired the year after I graduated because nobody ever passed her class. But it wasn't until my senior year of high school that I actually got a really good teacher. And I promise this story has a reason. It got to the point where I was like, I'm succeeding in all of my other classes. I am a peer counselor. I am a TA. I At that time I thought I knew what I wanted to do, what I was going to go to school for. I was getting straight A's and everything else. I had a good GPA. So I was like, this is not really that big of a deal. It's just math. And I had to actually fight and force my right to stay for like um, for coaching. No, I say coaching because my senior year math teacher was a coach. She was a girls basketball coach, but she was actually the best math teacher I had ever had in my life. That year, because I fought for my ability to stay for tutoring, because and that's another story I'll tell another day, but I wasn't allowed to, when I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to stay in school after school for extracurriculars. And so I kind of had to fight for that ability to do that. And because I did that, I actually passed my senior year with the first A ever in math. I promise again, this story has a reason. I was always good with failure because I could succeed at other things in school. I was also good with failure because I knew that as long as I was trying, things could change. My parents knew that I tried really hard in school. And so because I was a good kid and I was good in school and all of these things, they didn't really care if I failed math because my mother was bad at math too. My dad tried. He would sit up with me until like 2:30 in the morning and I'm sitting at the table and crying. I digress though. my my relationship with failure has always been okay. And it wasn't until a few years ago I really understood why. I could fail at everything and still be okay. Number one, again, it was because if I was failing, I was at least trying. I was at least trying. It didn't mean that I didn't think that it meant anything bad about me. The second thing is I was more afraid of success. Part of the reason why I was afraid of success, and I still am to an extent, but I'm again learning the psychology of what it means to be afraid of success. Every time that I did really, really well, I got smacked down. Sometimes it was by my mom. Sometimes it was by other people. Sometimes it was by a teacher. It's like, okay, I picked this really great book to do a book report on. Nobody's ever picked it in 25 years of my teacher teaching. I got a C. I ultimately got it back up to an A, but the point of the matter was that whenever I've really been successful, and this is hard for me to talk about, I've been knocked down. Or whenever I wanted to start my business, I had people who were friends going, "Do you really think that's going to work? I don't think that that's going to work. I don't think that you have what it takes. I don't think that you can do it. Nobody wants what you're doing." That's a really hard niche to flow into. Or there's too many other people doing what you're doing. There's too much competition. There's too much this, there's too much that. Whenever I would get a little bit excited about something, or there was an this kind of energy around me wanting to succeed, I've been called a poser. I've been called all kinds of different things. And so it was always my fear of success because I felt like if I succeeded, it meant number one, more responsibility. Number two, more was going to be expected of me, which, yes, these things are true. And that number three, it was unsafe for me to be successful. And I'm not just talking about in business, I'm not talking about anything in particular here, other than whenever it could have been in like a friend group when another friend was liking spending more time with me than whatever it was at the time, I would get smacked down. And so I ultimately started to do things to keep myself small so I wouldn't succeed. I would tell myself lies. And I maintained my good relationship with failure. I knew that I was trying, but here's where the little bit of the spicy dirty part comes in. Is I was okay with failure because failure was a comfort zone. It's where I was safe. It is where I was allowed to stay small, where I didn't have to reach goals and dreams to the extent that I could see them. I could stay small and people would still love me and I wouldn't get attacked. And if I didn't shine, then, and I kept failing, then I could feel like I belonged. And I'm not saying this in any particular situation here. It's just the relationship with failure and success. Everybody is afraid to fail because what would that mean if I failed? And obviously, I don't want Inspired Alchemy to fail. That's not what I'm saying. I don't want any other business venture that I take on to fail. I take those things very seriously. They are my passion and my purpose. And I will do everything to keep them going. This is a generalization, right? Obviously, I've gotten older. I'm learning the new psychology of why I feel the way that I feel. I'm learning steps to take in order to not allow myself to stay small and be okay with failure, but also be okay with success. And it can be challenging. A lot of people are like, oh my God, I can't fail. If I fail, what does that mean about me? If my business fails, what are people going to think of me? Honestly, I don't care either way. Because again, failure means I'm trying. But to what extent? And that's where it hit me. And honestly, this is just a new revelation. I was okay with failure because it allowed me to stay small. Success meant that I had to stand in who I am. Success means I have to do things that I don't know how to do, that I'm scared to do. I have to be vulnerable in places with people that I'm terrified to be. I have to walk into rooms that I never thought that I could stand in. I have to sit at tables and speak to people that I didn't even know existed. People that I would have seen as these super successful humans. And I have to realize that at one point they were me. So stepping into this new version of self is causing me to have to really look deep into who I am, who I want to be, and what I want out of life. And realizing that allowing myself to not do the things, certain things, not staying consistent in some way, whether it's whatever it is, right? Not staying consistent is a way of keeping myself in my comfort zone. Even in my growth zone, failure is still comfortable. And I want to be able to have a relationship with failure and it be good like it is. But I also want to have a relationship with success and say, you know what? It doesn't matter if when I succeed, X, Y, and Z happens because I'm standing in my integrity. I'm standing in my authenticity. I'm standing in my truth and I'm going for my dreams and my goals to live a life that I love and that I'm passionate about, but a life that I can also soften into. I had a lot of realizations today, and it's been kind of like an emotional kind of roller coaster for me. Um, And so I think what I just want to share is we all have our relationships with failure and we all have our relationships with success. But beneath that, there is something else. Are you allowing success or failure to keep you small from what it is that you want to go after and what you want to do? And I believe that this quote that I kind of heard today is a conversation between my friend and I, where I was saying, yes, things happen as they should. And while we were in agreement, it was also said, yes, they happen as they should, but sometimes you have to say yes and see where it goes. And this does tie into failure and success. So I know that this feels kind of heavy today. And in general, the energy is kind of heavy everywhere. But don't allow your fears of failure or success or your fears in general to keep you small and to keep you from doing what you feel is your purpose in life. Or if you have goals, don't let anybody tell you who you are. Don't let anybody make you feel like you're less than or like you're broken. We are all just trying to do this thing called life to the best of our ability. And some people seem like they're doing it better. And some of us just feel like we're hanging on. And that's okay. Again, you're not broken. And I say that at the end of all of these episodes because I think that it's important. So many people walk around thinking that they're broken or there's something wrong with them. There's not. Look inside, find who it is that you really are, and start doing things little by little to become who it is you're meant to be. Not who everybody tells you you are, and not who the world tells you that you are. There's a freedom in that. And I think that's all I have for you today. Just keep alchemizing. When things get heavy, know that you're not alone. If you need help, reach out. Until next time, thank you for being here.